Hello everyone. Today we're going to make a reaction to Geography Now Liechtenstein. We will be learning one of the smallest country in Europe. That is between Switzerland and Austria. Read the link in the description, I'll start the video.
It's here. Some of you have been
Alright
waiting for
then.
this episode for years. Sure, everybody
Alright
knows
then.
about China, Brazil, Germany, and Australia, but
China and
do you know
Brazil,
anything
I will
about
react them
little
later. I already
Liechtenstein?
did Germany, so let's learn about
It's
Liechtenstein.
time to learn geography now! Hey everybody, I'm your host
Alright
Barbs.
then.
Okay, I actually had the incredible honor to
Alright
not
then.
only go to this country with my mom last year,
Alright.
and we also got passport stamps, which, by the
Alright
way,
then.
Swiss geograpeeps Herman and
Alright
Fabian,
then.
thank you for driving and hosting us. But I also had the incredible honor of meeting one of the
Alright
incredibly rare
then.
and few native-born Liechtensteiner geograpeeps, Pascal.
China.
Dude, a real Liechtensteiner watches
Alright.
Geography Now. That's amazing. Meeting an
Alright
actual
then.
native of Liechtenstein is like finding a unicorn in a haystack
then.
in the Saharan desert. And
Alright
the desert
then.
is made of haystacks. Sorry, I'm just kind of
Okay.
gushing because, come on, we're doing Little Liechtenstein today.
Okay.
Let's begin.
Okay. Political geography
Now, if
now.
you don't know anything about Liechtenstein, the first
Alright
thing you
then.
might need to know is that it is incredibly small, like the sixth smallest country in the
Alright
world.
then.
And it's also rather difficult to get into in contrast to other European countries. First of all,
Alright then.
classified as a microstate, the nation of Liechtenstein is
Alright
located
then.
between
Austria
Austria
and
and Switzerland, taking up
right, and
162 square
Liechtenstein speaks
kilometers, being only
German.
25 kilometers
I don't
long
live in
and 9.4
Liechtenstein, but
kilometers
it would have
wide.
been
It is also
cool.
one of the only two doubly landlocked nations in the world,
Or
meaning that it's
Switzerland
landlocked
and
within other
Austria
landlocked
too.
nations, the other one being Uzbekistan.
Alright.
The country is divided into 11 different municipalities
Alright.
with their own exclaves, with the capital Vaduz that has only about 5,200 people,
Alright.
located in the center of the country. Vaduz is actually the second largest town in the country, the first being Shan, with about 500 more people. The country has no airports or seaports, but they do have the heliport at Balzers, but that's just like for tourist rides into the mountains. And they do have 4 train stations operated by an Austrian federal railway system, and the stations are only serviced on weekday peak hours. So getting in, you're much better off either taking a bus or car. To drive in, you can take various bridge
Liechtenstein
crossings
drives also the right side of the road.
Feldkirch, Austria. There isn't any border patrol or passport checks. It's really easy. However, if you do want a passport stamp, you can get one at the tourism/post office in Vaduz for about €3. Worth it! The main number 28 road pretty much crosses the entire country north to south, as almost the entire country lives on the west side due to the high mountainous border to the east. The funny thing is, after World War II, Liechtenstein actually had a little land dispute with what is now Czechia over the castles and forests and agricultural land plots that were hereditary lands that belonged to the former monarchs. These lands altogether made up a land area over 10 times the size of Liechtenstein. However, when they brought it up, Czechia was like, so you want your old lands back, eh? Well, how about I give you the castles, but not the surrounding land areas? To which Liechtenstein was like, finally, in 2009, they decided to drop the case and just let it go, but I mean, whatever. They have like 8 other palaces in Austria and 1 in Italy. Otherwise, some places of interest might include the Prince's Castle
This
in
Prince
Vaduz,
Castle will
Malbringen
be
as a
the
ski
thumbnail.
resort, the main square, the National Museum, the Postage Stamp Museum, the Schatzkammer Treasure Chamber, the Kunstmuseum, the Landtag or Parliament Building, and Balter's Gothic Castle. Alright, now let's take a look at those pristine Alps, shall we?
Okay, let's learn about physical
For such a small
geography.
country, Liechtenstein
It's a
actually has
very
lot going on
beautiful
in terms
and
of
very
landscape.
interesting
For one,
country.
the
I love
country is located on
Liechtenstein.
the Upper Rhine Valley in the European Alps, along the longest river, the Rhine, that borders with Switzerland. The entire eastern side of Liechtenstein is mountainous, with the highest peak, Grauspitz, located on the southern border with Switzerland as well. Just up north, the largest and pretty much only real lake in the country, Grampener Zille, can be found, although it should be classified as a pond, but When it comes to resources, Liechtenstein isn't exactly top dog. I mean, there's a few cultivated fields in the south, but overall, not too many things to extract. Nonetheless, they do actually have some industries like textiles, pharmaceuticals, power tools, like the company Hilti. Other companies are in the country like Lutrix, ThyssenKrupp, Hoval, Hilkona. And also, Liechtenstein is the world's largest provider of false teeth. Thanks to the company Evo Klar Vivident, accounting for 20% of sales worldwide, producing 60 million sets a year. It has something to do with the close relationship with Bollywood. Yeah, whatever, just look it up. It's funny though, because there's actually more registered companies and jobs in Liechtenstein than there are people, which is why over half the workforce has to travel into Liechtenstein from Switzerland or Austria. This means the country has the most exports per capita at around $122,000 per person. It wasn't always like this though. Before the 17th century, Liechtenstein was known for being the rich country with boring farmers. It wasn't until the beginning of the 20th century that Liechtenstein decided to change up fiscal policies and become a huge tax haven, especially for billionaires. But it's not like one of those blacklisted havens. It's a good
then.
one, okay? They do things right. Hey, we're just
Alright then.
hustling, okay? Don't act like you don't too. Out of all the
Alright then.
7-ish trillion sheltered dollars worth
Alright
in
then.
tax havens worldwide, Liechtenstein manages about 180 billion. In addition, they
Alright
host nearly
then.
74,000 letterbox companies, which
Alright
don't
then.
even really do anything, but they still get paid for. So that means the system
1905,
kind of keeps
2003.
Liechtensteiners abundantly employed with about
Liechtensteiners.
$5
Alright
million
then.
dollars and 2 companies to look after per citizen. Yeah, kids, if you really want to get rich, don't seek after
Alright
fame.
then.
Study business and finance with minors in
Alright
accounting.
then.
Trust me, I'm a YouTuber. I know exactly what not to do. Oh yeah, the
Alright then.
national animal is the kestrel. They even have a
Alright.
falconry center in
This is
Melbourne. And some
interesting.
of the top notable dishes of
Alright.
Liechtenstein might include Kiskenäpfle, which is like a
Alright then.
variation of Käsespätzle, Riebel, Surkies, Liechtenstein wine,
Alright
and
then.
those crown-shaped chocolate things
Alright
called...
then.
Oh, geez, how do you pronounce this?
First, food.
Fürstenhütchen. All right, now let's move on to the ones
Alright.
that make those dishes,
Alright then.
the people of this country.
Okay, that's one about demographics now.
Once upon a time, there was this thing called the Holy Roman Empire. It was basically made up of like
Alright then.
1,800 territories that eventually meshed and melded into what is now parts of like 12 different countries in Europe. Liechtenstein is basically the last surviving territory of the Holy Roman Empire that never really
Technically
coalesced into any
disputed,
other
but
state. Partially because nobody really cared about it and it was too
alright
small
then.
to bother with. But who's laughing now?
Alright then.
First of all, the country has nearly 38,000 people and
Okay.
is almost always ranked in the top 3 highest GDP per
Okay.
capita states in the world at nearly 180k per capita. The country is only about a third native Liechtensteiner, whereas
Liechtensteiners.
the remaining populace is made up of foreigners, mostly Germans,
Germans,
Austrians,
Austrians,
Swiss, and
Swiss,
Italians.
Italian.
They use the Swiss franc
Alright
as their
then.
currency. They use a Type J plug
Alright
outlet,
then.
and they drive on the right side of the
Other
road.
road.
Which, by the way, I hate the J plug outlet because half the
Alright
time
then.
the sockets are sunk into these weird hexagon-shaped divots. Half the time I
Alright
couldn't even
then.
fit my Type C adapter plug when I was in
Alright
Switzerland.
then.
Why? Why do you guys do that? That's like borderline statistics, Switzerland
Alright
and
then.
Liechtenstein. That and your prices for
Alright
everything.
then.
Otherwise, I love everything else about you guys. Now, here's the
Okay.
thing. Liechtenstein is one of 4
Alright.
countries in Europe that speaks German. However,
Alright.
they speak with their own distinct dialect,
Alright.
very similar to the Swiss and Austrians.
Alright.
Obviously, it's a little different from
Alright then.
Hochdeutsch, which is spoken up north in Germany. From what I was told, Liechtensteiners are
Alright
known
then.
for saying hoi for hello and ciao for bye. Instead of Kuh for cow, they say Buschla. Instead of Hügel for
Alright
hill, they
then.
say Böhel. This is what you
Alright
guys
then.
told me, so yeah. Also, I was told that this is how you can tell all the
Alright then.
Germanic-speaking countries apart. Let's say
German
you gained
speaking.
weight. This is how a friend from each country
Excuse
would
me. Okay
respond.
then.
So how are you doing? Ah, I see you're
Alright
enjoying
then.
your schnitzels, eh? You got fat. Now, like the
Alright
Swiss,
then.
Liechtenstein has always kind of kept to themselves and
Alright
stayed
then.
out of affairs. There's a legend that says that when they fought in the Austro-Prussian War, they came back with negative casualties, as
Alright
in
then.
the army of 80 men came back with a friend. After that, the
Alright
military
then.
was disbanded, and today all military affairs are
Alright.
handled by the Swiss army, even though they accidentally fired a shell and burned off a patch of their forest in the 80s and
Ease.
accidentally invaded in 2007.
Mm,
But,
yeah.
they laughed over it with glasses of wine. Now, Liechtenstein
Alright
is
then.
generally seen as being more conservative than other countries and more
Alright then.
religious, mostly adhering to Catholicism with very strict
Alright then.
stances on social issues like gay marriage,
Alright
abortion,
then.
and immigration. In fact, less than 60 resident
Alright then.
permits are issued every year for EEA citizens that
Alright
work
then.
in Liechtenstein, half by lottery and half by government. Oh yeah, and the country is a monarchy, a
Alright then.
principality to be exact. Essentially, the von
Alright
Liechtenstein
then.
family, where the country gets its name from, are descended from Austrian noblemen related to the Habsburgs, and even though they get little publicity, they are
Alright
literally the
then.
richest royals in Europe with a net worth of over
Alright then.
$7.5 billion. The current Prince Hans
Alright
Adam
then.
II being the owner of LGT Bank alone,
Mhm.
having a personal fortune of about $4 billion. Yeah,
Alright
by
then.
contrast, Queen Elizabeth has only about 500 million. The prince has 4 children and
Alright
15
then.
grandchildren, Alois being the next in line to the throne. Oh, and his brother Maximilian married
Hmm?
Angela Gisela Brown from Panama, who was the first person of known African ancestry to have married into a reigning European dynasty. The royal family is actually quite popular and loved
Alright
by the
then.
people. They're very down to earth and they eat at cafes
Alright
downtown in
then.
Vaduz regularly, talking to the everyday citizens. Once a
Alright
year, they
then.
even hold a party which everyone is allowed to come to the castle and
Alright
share a
then.
beer. There is a bit of controversy though, because today
Alright
they
then.
are the only monarchy in Europe in which the monarch
Alright
has
then.
influence
Excuse
on
me.
every level of
Alright
government.
then.
The prince can veto anything. In 2012, they held a vote
Alright
which
then.
kind of went like this. We want to take away your powers of
Alright then.
exercising the option to veto bills. I mean, if
Alright
you
then.
really don't want me around, I can totally just leave and let you guys handle everything.
Mm.
Really? Yeah, I'll just take my
Alright then.
$7.6 billion corporate interest and revenue
Alright
deals
then.
outside of the state, but you know, you can sell
Alright then.
postcards to the tourists.
Alright then.
Wait, come back! and over 3/4 of the population voted to let him remain with his original duties. Speaking of monarchy, history.
Alright
We don't have a lot of time to go too far into it, but the quickest way I can summarize it: two small Holy Roman Empire earldoms of Vaduz and Schellenberg. 1969, this guy comes along. 1712, he purchases both Vaduz and Schellenberg, hence joining the two together, making the country complete. The Napoleon years, but the prince is like a respected military leader, so they remain independent. 19th century, joins German Confederation, although Austria gets left out, which geographically separates Liechtenstein from Germany. World War I breaks ties with Austria-Hungary. 1938, Prince moves back in from Vienna. World War II, after Austria is annexed, they are literally on the Nazi border.
Excuse me, no, no, not the Austrian painter.
Independent. Post-World War II, economic boom. All the banks,
Alright then.
fiduciaries, and engineers come in. Czechia dispute.
Alright then.
1984, women are allowed to vote. The last European country to do so.
Alright then.
1995, they joined the EEA. And here we are today. Oh,
Alright
and
then.
Liechtenstein has like one of the lowest crime rates in the
Alright
world.
then.
Prisons are often empty, and anyone
Alright
with a
then.
sentence over 2 years is actually sent to Austria. It's been said that people typically don't even lock their front doors. With such a small population, everyone kind of knows
Alright
everyone
then.
and has a close tie. Nonetheless, they still reach out and make friends
Alright
abroad.
then.
Which brings us to
The friend zone. Let's learn about the friend zone.
now, it doesn't really matter how small your
Alright
country
then.
is. If you're able to handle your country's overall economic output
Alright
with a
then.
content populace, holding on to sovereignty is
Alright
a
then.
breeze. And so is making friends. Today, they have
Alright.
6 embassy missions abroad in Austria, Belgium, Germany, Switzerland, and the Vatican, and the United States. However, Switzerland is authorized to represent Liechtenstein in other diplomatic situations
Alright then.
unless they decide to send their own delegates. Liechtenstein is interesting
Alright
because they
then.
don't host any embassies in their territory, but rather 32 honorary consuls, surprisingly
then.
3 of which are the African states of Chad, Senegal, and the
Alright.
Central African Republic, whom have reached out and made close ties for decades.
Alright
They
then.
are not part of the European Union, but rather part of the Schengen area, which means they have open borders and visa policies with the EU. And also,
Alright
as a
then.
member of the EEA, they have free movement of goods
Alright
and
then.
persons and services as well. But yeah, not part of the EU. Austria and
Alright.
Germany have always been close friends, especially the southern Bavarian and Baden-Württemberg states of Germany. These two make up some of the largest business
Alright
partners
then.
and foreign population living in Liechtenstein, which is barely even much
then.
of a distinction since they are all Germanic brothers to begin with. In early years,
And
most of the
also
monarchs actually
Switzerland.
chose to live in Austria rather than their own country until 1938 when Franz Josef was like, we're moving back in, folks. When it comes to their best friends, however, most Liechtensteiners might say the Swiss. They share everything: a customs union, a monetary union, military coverage, diplomatic delegates. They even speak relatively the same dialect and have similar mannerisms and culture cues. It's often said that Switzerland sees Liechtenstein as its little yet surprisingly richer brother. I mean, they literally were totally cool with it when they got accidentally attacked. What more do you need to know? In conclusion, Liechtenstein is kind of like a high-capacity storage microchip. Small, yet absolutely flooding with abundance, neatly tucked away in a small space hidden away from the public eye. Stay tuned! The second
Goodbye.
creepy Baltic